For a moment it appeared to Sam that his master had grown and Gollum had shrunk. A tall, stern shadow, a mighty lord who hid his brightness in gray cloud, and at his feet a little whining dog. Yet the two were in some way akin and not alien. They could reach one another's minds. Gollum raised himself and began pawing at Frodo, fawning at his knees. "Down, down," said Frodo. "Now speak your promise."
Welcome to the Wayward Wizards radio program. Today we are reading Book 4, Chapter 1, The Taming of Sméagol. My name is Zach.
And my name is Logan.
We are back with two characters that we've not been with for several hundred pages.
Say their names, Zach.
Master Frodo and Samwise Gamgee. Samwise the Brave.
His loyal dog.
Yeah. Dogs come up a few times in this chapter specifically.
A lot of dog talk.
A lot of dog talk. Multiple languages, multiple words for dog. Did you catch the word cur used several times in this chapter?
I did.
And of course, we are introduced to probably at least one of the most iconic characters in Lord of the Rings, and really one of the most iconic characters in all of literature, I think.
Gollum, Sméagol himself.
We were saying offline before we started the pod that probably the two characters that have really transcended into the culture most are Gandalf and Gollum. Would you agree with that, you think?
Yeah, they're the ones that, even if you like held up a picture of Gandalf, or, you know, a drawing of Gandalf, or Ian McKellen, right?
Yeah.
People would be like, they might not be able to say his name, but they're like, he's that like wizard guy. He's like a Lord of the Rings thing. You know, they would know it. And I think the same is true for Gollum.
I think that if you saw like a silhouette of either of these characters,
yeah, you would know who they are.
Because they're so just ubiquitous. I think if you say Gandalf, someone might even say like, "You shall not pass."
Yeah.
And if you talk about Gollum, they just know a few things about him. They know that he has like a split personality.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
His character is so interesting. And, you know, he's been this shadowy presence all the way back since Moria. He's called a footpad. People talk about seeing his eyes gleaming. He's a clever waterman who's able to follow them even as they take to the boats from Lorien. And now that we meet him, it's hard not to have like a strange affection for him, even though he's this despicable, duplicitous, murderous, cannibalistic, disgusting character. It's hard not to also have some strange affection for him because he's just so pitiable and so childlike.
Tolkien sort of externalizes that, right, in the characters of Frodo and Sam from the very beginning. You know, Sam has this real practical, almost like a fear of Gollum. But, you know, Frodo doesn't trust Gollum implicitly or anything like that, but he's so moved to compassion. And he's also had that word kind of put to him by Gandalf that, you know, it was compassion, you know, that stayed Bilbo's hand, and that sometimes things work out in ways you don't expect.
Yeah, the word that Gandalf uses is pity.
Pity, yeah.
The pity of Bilbo might be the salvation of us all.
Right. And for us, I think that's sort of an old-fashioned, I mean, pity has different connotations now than it did, I think. But yeah, pity, compassion, mercy, empathy. And they share, they're like two beings in the world who share an understanding of what it's like to carry around this ring.
Something that I'm really keyed into this reading is the way that Gollum's treachery is ultimately what leads to the success of the quest itself. And by extension, it's Frodo's willingness to show him compassion that really allows the quest to succeed. It's not Frodo's own willpower that leads to the ring being destroyed. And I'd like for us to kind of explore, and maybe we could debate back and forth. When Gollum makes the promise to Frodo, when he swears his allegiance to him, I think that Gollum's breaking of that promise, because he breaks his oath breaking is like a really important theme in all of Tolkien's Legendarium.
Yeah.
Like you become literally cursed if you break an oath.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's so many examples of that. Giving an oath and then breaking it is basically setting yourself up 100% of the time to be a doomed character in Tolkien.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sméagol's like treachery, I don't think it's just, chance that he meets the end the way that he does. I think it's a curse that's laid on him because he breaks this oath that he makes to Frodo.
Well, I think the part where he takes the oath is the densest part of the chapter. It's right at the end. Otherwise, the chapter's kind of breezy in a way. It's just just walking. It's like a hike,
World's worst hike.
Yeah, that part, because that part where Frodo is saying, "What will you swear to?" And Gollum wants to swear on the ring, or swear to protect the ring. Frodo's like, "Well, that's not good enough,"
Well, yeah, and there's like some distinction I think we should suss out between swearing by something versus swearing on something.
Yeah, how do you see the distinction there?
I don't have like a really clear distinction. I think it has to do with ownership and mastery, that you can't swear on something that you don't have possession of or mastery of. So Gollum says initially that he will swear on the precious. He says, "We must swear on the precious. Sméagol will save it. Sméagol will swear never, never to let him have it. Never." And Frodo lashes out in anger. He goes, "No, not on it. Swear by it if you will."
I think the distinction is swearing on it is swearing fealty to it. Swearing by it is swearing, I promise, sort of like on my grandmother's grave, right? I promise on a thing that's like the most, precious to me, that commands my attention, my respect, my loyalty. But swearing on it is like swearing to serve the ring, which is like exactly what Frodo doesn't want, right? Frodo wants or needs Gollum to serve him by the ring, not to serve the ring on the ring by its own power.
Yeah, and I think, we'll break this down in more detail when we get to this section of the chapter, because as you mentioned before, it is, I think, the most dense part of the chapter. But I do think that the seeds of the very end of the quest are sown really clearly in this chapter.
Absolutely.
And I think that the ending where Frodo, is standing at the edge of the cracks of doom, choosing to claim the ring as his own, Gollum attacking him and biting off his finger and falling into the fire, all of that, if you're reading it for the first time, I think would be an absolute shock. It is not what you would expect how the story would end, but you can see that in the logic of the world that Tolkien has laid out, that was the only way that this was ever going to end. And it really starts in the Taming of Sméagol chapter, I think.
Yeah, I think the end is definitely written right here. The way that Gollum swears, what he swears, how divided he is against himself. Even Frodo's insistence on Gollum swearing a certain way, right, is like the nuance that comes out, 300 pages from now or whatever it is. And I agree. Like I really I remember reading this for the first time and being, reading the end for the first time and being really shocked.
Yeah.
By and almost it was like a crestfallen feeling, right? You're like, what is happening? This is not how this is supposed to end, before Gollum attacks him. The psychological complexity that's happening in this chapter with all the swearing back and forth, and then the way it ends, and this is true throughout, really makes it feel real. which is the thing that I think gives this staying power,
Yeah, absolutely.
that it really feels real.
Tolkien, I think, was bemused. There's a couple letters where he talks about Frodo's, quote unquote failure. And he talks about the different reactions that people had to that twist in the story that people didn't expect. In Tolkien's mind, Frodo is this like saintly figure who got to the edge of what was humanly possible, and then the hand of God had to come in and help him the rest of the way. And it's a very Catholic view of grace. But Tolkien had people write and be like, Frodo should have been like lined against a wall and shot because he betrayed his oath. He betrayed the quest.
Yeah.
And Tolkien, in response to those letters, is so clearly annoyed. Where he's just like, oh, you think that you could do it?
Right.
He couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. And so you need this like divine intervention to get you past this. Like this is it's an immensely powerful force that he's up against.
Mm-hmm.
He had a very particular constitution that allowed him to even get as far as he did.
Right. It's his hobbitness, right? That's part of it.
His humility, his hardiness, his desire to still live a simple life, and he's put in these circumstances that are beyond his control or his really his station.
The hymn that always pops into my head as I'm reading Lord of the Rings, and this was really true in the Bombadil chapter, but I think it's true throughout, is it's 'tis a gift to be simple, because that's like what you need is a sort of a simple loyalty or a simple faith, a simple fealty, something, a simplicity about yourself and your place in the world to resist the like evil of something like the Ring. And I don't think people like to think of themselves as simple. I don't. I want to be this like complicated guy,
Gollum the Great, eating fish 3 times
right.
a day.
And Gollum is like not simple, right? He's like 2 characters in one, and he's so dissembling and cunning and clever. That's also true of Saruman, cunning, clever, divided, right?
In fact, Saruman's name in Elvish is Curanir, which means like cunning.
Yeah. And then you look at somebody like even like Denethor, is another person who's divided against himself and complicated and has this like inflated sense of who he is. But then you look at somebody like Aragorn, and Aragorn, carried around a broken sword for 80 years. It's very simple, loyal, faithful. Yeah. So the idea of, putting Frodo against a wall, God, it's so dark.
Yeah. And I think it has a fundamental misreading of like what type of story this is.
Well, and it doesn't understand like what Tolkien is trying to communicate about grace. The whole story is grace.
Yeah.
And it's more complicated than God just puppeteering people, right? But it is an interplay between sort of providence and agency. And when Frodo at the end tries to flex his agency, Providence comes in and says, no, it goes into the fire. That's how it's supposed to end. It's a nice ending, Yeah. Even though it ends up being, it sort of is still Frodo's doom. He still can't exist in the world after all this. But
the moments when Frodo begins to have this kind of like, the word that's coming to my mind is terrible. I don't want people to misread like what I mean by terrible. It's like there are moments when he begins to show like a spiritual stature that is greater than his like true self.
Terrible as in terrifying, right? As in,
yeah, like magnificent.
Magnificent. Yeah.
Such that, Gollum shrinks at it and, bows before his feet. He is daunted. It reminds me, there's several characters. The 2 or 3 that come to mind immediately are Galadriel, Gandalf, and Aragorn, where all 3 of those people are impressive on their face. But there are moments when it's almost like, I think a phrase that's used of Gandalf is like the sun coming out from behind the cloud.
Yeah, you mentioned that a couple episodes ago.
with Galadriel, the moment that they see her like in her spiritual height.
Yeah, grandeur almost, right? Yeah.
Instead of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen. And Aragorn, we one of the first times we see this is when he's standing on the ship on his boat as they approach the Argonath, and everybody is like, "Whoa!" Like, this isn't Strider anymore. This is a king of men.
Yeah.
There's a sense when Frodo calls on Gollum to make his oath, there's this power that opens up in him that until now I don't think he's really explored.
Mm-hmm.
But there's several moments coming up where it's clear that the ring and the power of the ring changes him almost in spite of himself. When he calls Gollum to make his oath, and he says like, what are you saying? Think. He daunts him with his like superior power. He says like, essentially, if you betray me, I'll command you to cast yourself into the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, right.
He betrays him and he casts himself into the fire. And so I think there's a power to oaths that runs really deep in Tolkien. And I think that's this oath is his undoing.
Does Frodo ever turn that on Sam, that sort of commanding? I can't think of a time that he does.
The closest that I can think of is when Sam says, would you like for me to bear it for a little while? When he rescues Frodo from the tower coming up, Frodo's like, it's all over, Sam. Like, they've got the ring. And Sam's like, no, I have it.
Right.
Just for a little while. I just held it for just a little while. And Frodo angrily says, give it to me. Give it to me. It's mine.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a flash of anger towards Sam in that moment. And then even as they're trying to climb Mount Doom, Sam offers to bear it for a while to give Frodo rest. And Frodo says like, back, like, get away from me. You're trying to take it from me. And that's where you get the beautiful line where Sam says, I can't bear it for you, but I can bear you. But yeah, don't try to take this ring away from Frodo. He's not gonna let you have it.
I think we should jump in at this point, unless there's anything else you wanted to cover.
Let's jump. So let's just kind of set the stage. So in the previous book, we moved forward in time quite a length of time, like a couple weeks from the departure of Boromir, the breaking of the Fellowship, Frodo and Sam's decision. Well, Frodo's decision and Sam's persistence in following him.
Yeah.
We ended the volume of Fellowship of the Ring with Frodo trying to leave Sam and Sam not letting him.
Mm-hmm.
Which somebody pointed out, and I can't unsee it now, that each of the volumes of Lord of the Rings ends with Frodo trying to leave Sam.
Well, that's really funny.
And what we learn is that eventually Sam, after a long and fruitful life, is reunited with Frodo in the Undying Lands.
Yeah, wow, fascinating.
Frodo makes this choice, and it's a important choice, because if he hadn't made the choice, then he would have been abducted by the Uruk-hai. It was an overwhelming force.
He'd be in Orthanc, right?
Yeah, and then eventually he'd be, under the Questioner. He'd be tortured.
Yeah, with a capital Q, right?
So if he hadn't made that choice to strike off on his own, it would have been a disaster. But Sam, he's so committed that it's basically impossible for Frodo to get away without him. And that's also a fateful choice. Like Frodo wouldn't have made it even to the point of where they make it in this chapter without Sam, I don't think. But they have no idea what's going on with the rest of the company. They have no idea that Merry and Pippin have been abducted. They have no idea that Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli are not going to pursue them.
Mm-hmm.
But they are just striking off kind of on faith. But Sam starts out the chapter, this fourth book. He says, well, master, we're in a fix and no mistake. Because they're trying to get to Mordor, and it seems like it should be a really easy thing to do. Well, not easy. It seems like they should be able to find their way there.
Yeah,
but
Mordor
they are walking in circles.
Mordor is sort of an obvious place, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not like secret, but yeah, getting there through, where are they again? The Emyn Muil, is that what it's called?
Emyn Muil. It's a rocky, stony, cliffy place. They're able to see where they want to go. You know, this line here, every now and again, tiny red gleam far away flicked upward in the rim of the earth and the sky. So they're able to see the like volcano of Mount Doom ahead of them, but for whatever reason, they are just, you know, walking in circles. They'll go for hours and then they'll find that they're back exactly where they were before. And so it's this kind of labyrinthine lead up to the land of Mordor that they're stuck in here, and they can smell the marshes that they're heading towards, but they're still not able to get to them. I love that Sam says, "What a fix. That's the one place in all the lands we've heard of that we don't want to see any closer. And that's the one place we're trying to get to. And that's just where we can't get know-how."
They're completely, they're like completely stuck, you know.
We don't want to go there.
We don't want to go there. We need to go there. We can't go there.
Yeah,
Right.
it's frustrating. And so they need a guide.
They do.
Fate is about to give them one.
Absolutely. Frodo says, you know, they're pretty frustrated. They need to find a place to camp. And Frodo says, maybe another day will show us a path. And, you know, Sam is like, or another and another and another, or maybe no day. Maybe we've come the wrong way. Frodo says, well, yeah, maybe, but it's my doom, I think, to go to that shadow yonder, so a way will be found. And then he goes into like Aragorn mode here and says, all my choices have proved ill. I should have left the company long before. Right? That's how Aragorn starts book 3.
Yeah, how many times did you count that Aragorn says almost that exact
like
same sentence?
Six or seven, something like that. And he even says it. He says it like 6 times, and then like 2 or 3 chapters later, he says it to Gandalf, and Gandalf is like, "Nah, you're fine." But
there's this sense for both of them that they're like, all right, I've been given this task from God.
Yeah.
And I've let God down.
Right. How do I live up to it? And then how do I make a right choice with no
good choices?
There's no good choices to make, and there's no good inputs. Like every choice seems bad, you know, that I need to make. And all the choices are leading me toward, you know, as Frodo says, doom. And of course, doom has a yes. different meaning here. It means your fate, kind of,
your
right?
Fate, like the will of God.
But I still think that the word doom and the word fate, even in Tolkien's time, had, you know, if he was going to use the word fate, he would have used it. He used the word doom because it carries this connotation of dread. Yeah, destruction. Yeah, right. It's going to be my destruction, and dread. Yeah, dread is the right way to think of it too, I think.
There's that great line that I've heard Professor Corey Olsen from Mythgard Academy,
the great Corey Olsen.
The way that the word doom and the way that the word deem have the same root. Your doom is essentially what has been deemed
right
by the fates, by the powers, by God. And there's this great line in the Council of Elrond when he says, you know, what are we going to do with this ring? That is the doom we must deem.
Right.
Which is peak Tolkien.
It is.
But there's one line that you skipped over that I want to circle back to. He says, it is my doom, I think, to go to that shadow yonder so that a way will be found. So he's saying, like, you know, I'm going to end up over there, you know, whether I want to or not. That is like my fate. That's what's been sealed for me. But he says, but will good or evil show it to me?
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, either I'm going to walk there on my own feet, guided by some, you know, good fate, or I'm going to walk there on my feet, brought by some evil fate. But regardless, like, that is where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing that I do will prevent me from getting there. And that's kind of the theme of the entire book. That what seems evil, what seems to be an evil turn of fate, can be used by the powers to bring about a good end. That your faithfulness to continue, even in the face of like certain destruction, is what will lead to the good prevailing. That's like the whole thing right there.
Can I take a turn reading something from a Tolkien letter that relates to this?
Of course you can. Are you going to out nerd me right now?
I don't know. I'm sure you've read this letter yourself, but let me just read a short excerpt from a letter that Tolkien wrote to his son Christopher in 1944. This is when he was deployed to the Second World War. He says, "All things and deeds have a value in themselves apart from their causes and effects. All we do know, and that to a large extent by direct experience, is that evil labors with vast power and perpetual success in vain, preparing always only the soil for unexpected good to sprout in. So it is in general, and so it is in our own lives." So Tolkien is even saying, this isn't just some metaphysical truth, it's the truth that we find in our own lives.
We see it ourselves.
It's the truth that the unfortunate, painful things that happen to us, the things that other people sow into our lives that cause harm, still bring us to the place where we find ourselves.
Yeah.
And good can be found in the place where we are. We can still have gratefulness, gratitude for where we end up. I think it's very difficult to accept that, especially as modern people. I think it's harder to accept it maybe than it even was 50 years ago. But I think it's an existential choice. It's a way of like reckoning with the world that leads to more good, because we can also sow good into the world, like on purpose.
You can't choose the ground that you've been given to sow.
Yeah.
There's something so heartbreaking about a father writing to his son who is, staring down the face of fascism in the Royal Air Force, fighting a war that wasn't supposed to happen because your generation of men fought the war that was supposed to end it. The regret that I hear in these letters that he writes to his son. He's sending him drafts of these very chapters when his son is fighting in the Royal Air Force. He's giving him, like, he's doing what Gandalf does. He's kindling hope in his son. He's saying, like, I know things seem impossible and dark right now beyond imagining, but eventually you're going to be on the other side of this. And you'll see that God is still present even in the midst of this like incredible trial that you and your generation of young men are facing. That's a perfect quote. I'm so glad you brought it in.
Yeah. And it's so, there's a line in Psalm 37 where it says, "Live in the land and farm faithfulness." And I love the idea of farming faithfulness, because you have to like work your off
Tend it
and break the ground and plant the seeds and keep the soil moist and hope for rain and all that. And so it's not just like a work of like a wish. And that, I don't think that's what Tolkien is saying. He's not saying I wish the best for you. He's saying
you still have to labor.
Yeah, he's saying you're in this place and you have to labor, and the enemy is laboring against you, but in the end, the enemy is laboring also to sow seeds of good that will be reaped by generations that don't even exist yet.
In their despite, God will allow goodness to be reaped even as they try to work against goodness.
Yep.
And there's something so Tolkienian about you labor, but you don't labor in vain, because you have assurance that the good will overcome evil. But that doesn't give you the right to stop laboring. Like, assurance of the fact that good will come doesn't mean that you get to stop your labor.
Right. You don't just like rest in some kind of complacency.
Never.
You still have to show up and do that work, but it's the showing up. It's like the loyalty to just the act of showing up that ends in, or has a possibility for, the good in the end.
Yeah. Well, I think we've waxed poetic.
We've waxed
quite a bit, but I think these are worthy themes to talk about, because I think they'll pay off a little bit later on.
Speaking of worthy themes,
Yeah.
Sam, I mean, this guy is worried about food.
He's always about the logistics.
What food have we got left? Frodo says. Only those what-do-you-call-ems.
Yeah.
Lembas, Mr.
Yeah.
Frodo. A fair supply, but they're better than not by a long bite.
Yeah. He said, I never thought that I'd get sick of them when I first set tooth in them, but they don't fill the innards in the way that you'd like, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, what he really wants is a piece of plain bread and maybe even just half a mug of beer.
Yeah, it would go down proper, he says. Yeah.
It would go down proper. Yeah.
And here's a little bit of foreshadowing for the conies that are going to come up later. He says, I've lugged my cooking gear all the way from the last camp, and what use has it been? Not to make a fire with for a start, not to cook, not even grass. So yeah, he's lugging around his like cast iron pots, and
I think the cooking gear is Sam's shards of Narsil. You know, isn't that
so
great?
good.
I mean, it's his task to carry these pots so that someday he can make a proper meal for his friend, Mr. Frodo.
And if he doesn't make that proper meal, then they never get seen by Faramir. If they don't get seen by Faramir, they never get put in the position that they need to be in order to achieve. So yeah, there's so many like little foreshadowings that are present in this chapter. But they fear that they're being pursued, even though they don't see Gollum and they haven't seen his eyes in a long time. They have these little hints that there's something behind them. It says, sometimes in the silence of that barren country, they fancied they heard faint sounds behind them, a stone falling, or the imagined step of flapping feet on the rock. But if they halted and stood still listening, they heard no more. Nothing but the wind sighing over the edges of the stones. Yet even that reminded them of breath, softly hissing through sharp teeth. So that is Gollum pursuing them. And they're walking along this barren land, and they feel the presence of this powerful, malevolent force. And this is what the eye of Sauron is. It is not an embodied flaming eye that hovers over Barad-dûr like a searchlight. It's a searching presence that lays you bare before its immense power. Frodo is talking about how much he hates these hills, and he says, I feel all naked on the east side, stuck up here with nothing but the dead flats between me and that shadow yonder. There's an eye in it. Come, we have to get down somehow. And so that's what's pushing them to try and scramble down these ravines that are so treacherous, because they're trying to escape this searching presence. So they come to the edge of this cliff, and they're trying to measure, just guess at how deep this drop is. And Frodo guesses that it's about 18 fathoms.
What is a fathom, Zach?
How'd you know that I looked that up?
I just had a feeling that you would look it up, so I didn't have to.
A fathom is 6 feet.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's a lot. That's deeper than I thought.
So there's a couple of different like units of measurement that are used here. We have fathoms, and then we have ells.
Yeah, I didn't know what an L was either, and I didn't look that one up either.
So a fathom is like a way of like measuring depth, and an L is a way of measuring length. And so an L, so when they're measuring the depth of this ravine, they're going to use fathoms. But when Sam has his like, ninny hammer moment of like remembering that he has rope in a few minutes, he's going to talk about L's. And an L is comes from the Latin ulna, which is your forearm.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a way of like measuring from the tip of your middle finger down to the crook of your elbow.
That's about not quite a yard. I mean,
so there's different measurements depending on like which country you're talking about. Like France has a different definition of an L than the English versus other countries. I saw someone say that it's about 45 inches. But if you think about it, we've all had a cord that we like kind of wrap around our forearm in a way.
Yeah, so you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
So you can kind of
6,
go
7
1,
L's.
2, 3.
Right.
So it's just a very practical way of measuring. But my L is going to be very different than Sam's L.
Yeah, so 18 fathoms is 108 feet, which is that's deep.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, Frodo he's having to talk Sam into it.
Right.
He's saying, like, I think we should try it. Sam's like, why don't we just camp and wait and see if we can, if there's a little more light, we can kind of get a better sense of the depth. And Frodo's like, I'm going down. Frodo says, I think there's a storm coming. And then they have this argument about, like, who's going to go down first.
Yeah.
And Frodo says, I'm going to try it. And Sam says, very good, but I'm going first. And Frodo's like, what? Did you change your mind about climbing? And he's like, no, I haven't changed my mind, but put the one lowest as is most likely to slip. He's like, if you go down before me and then I fall down and then I run into you and then we both fall down, then, we're doomed. Like I'll go down first because I'm the one who's like most likely to go. There's no point in killing both of us if one of us falls. And so he starts to sort of like throw himself over the edge, really brazenly. And the narrator says, it is doubtful if he ever did anything braver in cold blood or more unwise. And Frodo says, no, Sam, you old ass. You'll kill yourself for certain going over like that without even a look to see what to make for. Come back. He took Sam under the armpits and hauled him up again. Now wait a bit and be patient.
I think that's the closest we get to someone swearing at another character in a kind of modern way.
You old ass.
Even though ass is like not one of those words that they bleep out, on the Tonight Show or whatever, it's still, and he says it in a good natured way, right? But you stubborn, he's kind of calling him stubborn, you old ass.
Yeah, like as an ass is just like a donkey. An ass won't move if
Right.
It doesn't want to. You can't drag it.
Did you notice that Sam scrabbled with his toes for a foothold? Now, is it possible to scrabble with your toes for a foothold with boots on? I'm not sure. I was just curious what you thought.
I won't dignify that with a response. You know that I know that you know that I know that these hobbits aren't wearing boots right now.
Well, I thought maybe they were. Why wouldn't they be? I just wondered if maybe, since they're trudging over all this broken rocky ground, that maybe they put some boots on, but maybe not.
When I meet my heavenly reward and I get to sit down and ask Tolkien all the questions that I have about Lord of the Rings, the first question I'm going to ask him, just to spite you, is how frequently hobbits wore boots and in what situations, and then we'll know. Okay?
I know you think you put this to bed with your little exegesis a couple weeks ago, but I'm just not going to let it die. I'm sorry. So anyway, Sam almost dies.
Sticks his little toesies out. He finds his foothold.
Frodo hauls him back up, and frankly, Frodo doesn't do that much better once they get the rope and all that.
So Frodo much more deliberately lowers himself over the edge, and he starts to say that it's really not that bad because he's able to find a foothold. There's a ledge he's able to sort of stand on without using his hands. But then the unthinkable happens. It says, the hurrying darkness, now gathering great speed, rushed up from the east and swallowed the sky. There was a dry, splitting crack of thunder right overhead. Searing lightning smote down into the hills. Then came a blast of savage wind, and with it, mingling with its roar, there came a high, shrill shriek.
This establishes a theme across the chapter and the next chapter as well, that a wind follows the Nazgul
In a darkness.
And then of course the shrill shriek. I don't think we've really heard that shrill shriek since the hobbits were escaping the ring wraiths in the Shire.
Yeah. And it says right here, the hobbits had heard just such a cry far away in the Marish as they fled from Hobbiton, and even there in the woods of the Shire it had frozen their blood. Out here in the waste, its terror was far greater. It pierced them with cold blades of horror and despair, stopping heart and breath.
And of course, Frodo is affected by the wraiths differently than even Sam because of his experience being stabbed by the dagger.
It strikes him blind. He slips down, and Sam crawls over the edge to look down, cries out, "Master, master, master." And Frodo says, all right, I'm here, but I can't see. So there's this darkness that comes. It's clearly a physical phenomenon that there is less light to see by. But Sam is kind of like, hey, it's not that dark.
Yeah, but Frodo's also like pressed against the rock. I mean, I think it's like multiple things, right? I think that Frodo's got a moral injury, like a metaphysical wound, right? From the Nazgul or from the ring wraiths, but also he's like pressed against the rock, you know. I also kind of imagine his eyes being closed.
Well, it seems like his eyes are wide open and he should be able to see. Because it says either the darkness had grown complete or else his eyes had lost their sight. All was black about him. He wondered if he had been struck blind. And he says, I can't see. I can't find any hold. I can't move yet. And Sam kind of desperately is like, what can I do, Mr. Frodo? What can I do? And
why could not his master see?
Yeah. And so Sam kind of desperately is like, I'll just climb down to you. And Frodo is like, no. I'll feel better soon. Like, just give it a minute. I'm already starting to feel a little bit better.
Right.
But we can't do anything without a rope.
Right. It feels that theme of feeling better continues. And so there's something spiritual and even physical happening.
Yes.
And it's a feeling that can fade as the ring wraiths get further away.
Yes.
I feel better already. Yeah, and then the rope, and then Sam, cries, "Rope!" We get a few indications that maybe the gaffer was like not a very nice dad. Like,
imagine if we treated our children the way that the gaffer treats Sam.
I mean, I have my moments, but man, like, it sounds like the gaffer has like maybe 100 names to like call Sam for being kind of dumb.
Just letting him know just how stupid he is. Yeah.
It's just like, God, like the guy is like, I mean, I don't know, like how hard does being called a ninny hammer really, land? I think if I called my son that, he would just laugh in my face. But yeah, you're not but a ninny hammer, Sam Gamgee. That's what the gaffer said to me often enough.
But when he says, if I don't deserve to be hung at the end of one as a warning to numbskulls. So he goes, rope. If I don't deserve to be hung at the end of one as a warning to numbskulls. Now, we've mentioned this before, but there's some wordplay going on here.
Yeah.
Samwise is Anglo-Saxon for a person who's not very smart.
Yeah. So he named his own son dumbass.
Dumbass.
Oh, poor Sam. He's just a simple boy.
Oh, he's a good boy. But Uncle Andy is about to make a return here in a minute.
Yeah, I remembered you talked about Uncle Andy before.
So when they're crossing the river into Lothlorien, you'll have to forgive me, I can't remember the name of the river. I don't think it was Nimrodel. I think it was another rushing river they had to cross. The tall people were like, hey, I don't think these little guys can like cross. Like how are we going to do this? And the elves are like, "Oh, it's no problem at all. We'll just we'll throw a rope across, make it tight." And then the elf just like runs across the rope like it's like a tightrope, like no big deal.
Yeah, right.
And Legolas is like, "Hey, I think I could do this, but I'm pretty sure that some people over here, Gimli, can't do that. So maybe we could work out some other arrangement."
Yeah.
And so he goes into this like long thing about how they like make like a rope on the bottom and then a rope that they can hold on to with their hands, and then they just kind of shuffle across.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam has this great line after he's done, and he's very brave, and he crosses the rope walk, and he goes, "Even my Uncle Andy couldn't have done something like that." So here's where the payoff is, okay?
Yes.
Andwise Roper is the name of Sam's father's brother. Okay. I'm looking forward here. It's 2 pages away pages, in my it's after the rope gets pulled down, and he's like describing how good he is at tying knots. And he goes, "I do know something about rope and about knots. It's in the family, as you might say. Why, my granddad and my Uncle Andy after him that was the gaffer's eldest brother, he had a rope walk over by Tyfield many a year." Okay, so a couple things. A rope walk. I Googled this because I didn't know exactly what it was. I was imagining a rope walk was a rope that you walk across, like a rope bridge.
Like a rope bridge? Yeah, that's what I thought too.
A rope walk is when you, it's a place where you take hemp and you spin it into thread. But in order to turn it into rope, you have to have extremely long hemp threads that you then weave together into a rope. And so there are these like, if you're going to make a long rope, it has to be many multiples longer as thread. And so there are these like, back like as long as we've made rope, there have been these like, hundreds of feet long pathways where they string this hemp, and it's so long that it would take like a long time to like walk back and forth. So people used to ride bicycles along them
really
to like save energy and time. So it's a rope making facility is what it is.
Yeah.
So when he says my grandfather and my uncle ran this rope walk, they're rope makers, which is why his name is Andwise Roper. Okay. Samwise Gamgee. Gamgee is a type of cotton wool. So there's like fiber in the family, and who does Sam marry later other than Rosie
Cotton?
So there's like a fiber that runs in the
cousin,
family.
Probably.
But the last thing, and then I'll stop talking about wordplay. Andwise is the opposite of Samwise.
I was gonna say that sounds like the opposite. Yeah.
So an Andwise person is a smart person, but a Samwise person is a ninny hammer, a numbskull, not very smart person.
Or Sam.
We'll see how much of that I actually keep in the episode. I feel like
love
that went
it.
Longer than I
actually
wanted. But yeah, so he remembers that he has this rope, and he's talking about how he like deserves to be hung at the end of it, which is pretty dark, Sam. Like, come on, be nice to my friend. But Frodo says, "Stop chattering." So he almost like forgets that his friend is like hanging from a precipice as he's talking about how much he hates himself. He goes, "Never mind your gaffer. Are you trying to tell me that you've got some rope in your pocket? If so, out with it." He's like, "Come on, dude. Like quit being mean to yourself and actually help me get out of this."
"Yes, Mr. Frodo, in my pack and all. Carried it hundreds of miles and I'd clean forgotten it."
So he ties some around his waist, and he grasps a line at both ends, and he casts it down to Frodo. And Frodo is able to see the rope, even though he's not really still able to see much else.
Yeah, where is that part?
The rope
here it is.
Is visible to him.
Yeah, he could see the gray line as it came dangling down, and he thought it had a faint silver sheen. We hear about that faint silver shimmery sheen again, and I think we have a case of magic rope.
I think we got ourselves a magic rope here.
He can see it because it's elvish, and it sort of shines through the darkness of the despair that he's feeling.
Yes.
It's the same way that the stars do,
Yes.
which they mention later. Yeah.
Yes.
They're elvish somehow, Sam says.
Yes, they are.
So,
and this is the very goodness of the rope is what it will burn Gollum when it's tied around his ankle.
Right.
So they determine that the rope is, just the right length, that if they tie it to a stump, they should be able to rappel down this cliff face with its help. Very well, said Sam heavily. If it must be, let's get it over. He took up the rope and made it fast about the stump nearest the brink, and at the other end he tied about his own waist. Reluctantly, he turned and prepared to go over the edge a second time. So Sam does go down first this time. Sam makes it down and he says, I'm down.
They get down, and it's only then that Sam realizes that they'll have to leave this rope behind because it's tied at the top of the stump. And he calls himself, again, Nanny Hammer. He said, Noodles, my beautiful rope.
Noodles. I love that noodles is used as a curse word in Lord of the Rings.
My beautiful rope. There it is, tied to a stump, and we're at the bottom.
Ninny Hammer. So this is the second time he's used the word Ninny Hammer. Did you happen to look up the etymology of Ninny Hammer?
You know I didn't.
So it's a 16th century insult.
Wow.
And it just means like idiot, dumbass. And hammer is just like a, intensifier that you add on the end of it. So Ninny Hammer seems to be like a Tolkien invention.
Oh, interesting.
It's like a derivation of the word ninny, which has the same root as, what would eventually become the word innocent. So it's like somebody who's like...
Oh, simpleton.
Like a simpleton, like a Samwise.
Yeah, right.
So that's just, I think, a really beautiful piece of Tolkienian philology there.
They're able to get the rope down just by giving it a little tug. Apparently the rope knows when it needs to be taut and tight and when it needs to be called back.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. And we've already mentioned it goes without saying this is a magic rope. Sam even says that it may have been made by Galadriel herself.
I like that because she's the weaver, right?
She's the weaver, yeah. Which is, of course, related to the fact that, the Rohirrim call her a witch or a sorceress.
Right.
She's sort of is a weaver of the fates. But it's also another great connection between Galadriel and Sam because rope making is in his heritage, and it seems to be also part of Galadriel's nature as well. And we learned that she and her ladies had knit the cloaks that they wear throughout the entire quest as well. So I think it's just another interesting tie back to Galadriel. I love their little debate about whether the rope was let go because of magic or because Sam just wasn't good at tying a rope.
But Sam has more kind of confidence about his abilities than his kind of his negative self-talk would have us believe.
Yeah. He sort of stands up for himself here a little bit.
He says, I think the rope came off itself when I called. And immediately after that, Frodo says, night will be on us soon. How beautiful the stars are and the moon. And Sam says, they do cheer the heart, don't they? Elvish they are somehow. So they have an elvish rope and they're being observed or heartened by, elvish stars.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, I think that kind of like those things are tied together. I mean, pun not intended, that they have this rope and Sam's confidence in his own abilities plus confidence that the elves could actually craft something like that could come when called. It's a nice little way to end that section. They pretty quickly hear, they keep trying to go on, but Frodo it's too dark and Frodo is too tired. So they take refuge, and pretty soon after that, they see something, a dark shape, scrambling down the face of what they just needed a rope to get down.
Yeah, like a spider. Like he's going face down,
and
first.
He's continuously sort of referred to as a spider-like figure.
He's like insect-like or frog-like.
Yeah, which the spider thing I think calls forward to the showdown with Shelob, and also just the fact that Tolkien and C.S. Lewis also just hated spiders.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anytime they want to describe something as creepy, they're gonna
Use these like insect-like.
insectoid sort of. Yeah.
And they're looking for a place to shelter, and they're not able to find really anywhere except, like it says, under the lee of a boulder. And I looked up what a lee is. It's a sort of like an outcropping of rock, so it's not quite a cave, but there's only really protection from the top,
Right.
because there's a ledge that they're sort of sheltered underneath, and it's raining and it's dark and it's terrible, and they're not really able to fall asleep. And that's when they, Frodo's like, hey, like we've been talking a little bit too loud. Like let's be quiet and let's see what we're able to see. And it says that a small black shape, pale in the moonlight, was moving with its thin limbs splayed out, creeping on what seemed almost like it could have been on sticky pads, like a large prowling thing of insect kind, coming down head first as if it was smelling its way. And they realize that their cloaks have sort of obscured them from him being able to see them, but he's able to smell them and hear them. So they quiet themselves, and Sam says, well, I'm sick of him. I'm going to go have a word with him if I can. I don't suppose we could give him the slip now anyway. So he draws his gray hood over his face, and he sneaks stealthily towards the cliff. I'm going to go have a word with him. It's almost like he's heard, what's it? Sandyman say something bad about Rosie at the pub, and he's going to go have a word with him. He's like
exactly. That's
rolling
funny.
up his sleeves, ready to brawl. And now, for the first time in this book, we hear the villain speak. He says, "Act cautious, my precious. More haste, less speed. We mustn't risk our neck, must we, precious? No, precious, Gollum." He lifted his head again, blinked at the moon, and quickly shut his eyes. "We hate it. Nasty, nasty, shivery light it is. It spies on us, precious. It hurts our eyes."
Where is it? Where is it, my precious? It's ours it is, and we wants it. The thieves, the filthy little thieves, where are they, my precious? Curse them, we hates them. It's almost like a song right there. The thieves, my filthy little thieves.
Sam's like, what's his precious? Does he mean the... Frodo's like, shh. He's getting near now, near enough to hear a whisper. So Sam's a little dense there. He doesn't pick up right away what he means by precious.
Yeah, exactly. Sam really hates Gollum.
Right away.
It says his eyes were filled with anger and disgust, fixed on the wretched creature as he now began to move again, still whispering and hissing to himself. But then Gollum falls off the cliff face, and again we see that he's
I never noticed that. I never noticed that until now.
He's described as a spider with his legs and arms curled around him. Like when a spider falls, they sort of protect themselves by turning into a ball.
Yeah. It says he has about a 6-foot fall, and it doesn't really say why he fell.
Yeah, he kind of tries to turn himself around, but it doesn't work out for him.
He falls with a shriek, and it says as he did so, he curled his legs and arms up around him like a spider whose descending thread is snapped. So that's a good catch.
Mm-hmm.
But before he could get up, Sam jumps on him and puts him in a hold.
Gollum's strong, though. I mean, Gollum, he's almost always more than what people reckon he's going to be.
Yes.
Right? Like, he outsmarted the elves and escaped them.
Yeah.
He here pretty much overwhelmed Sam. The only thing
Yes.
that kind of saves Sam is the fact that Frodo's there with Sting.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong way to put it. I was happy to sort of see Sting again. It's nice to have that callback to the Hobbit, and then he says, "This is Sting. You've seen it before once upon a time. Let go or you'll feel it this time. I'll cut your throat."
Wow. Yeah.
And it's so gross how Gollum goes straight into like whimpering, simpering mode.
Yeah. Like a child.
To save himself. That also reminds me of or I get maybe that's what reminded me. Worm tongue
Yeah.
reminds me so much of Gollum. And don't hurt us. Don't let him hurt us, precious. They won't hurt us, will they? Nice little hobbitses. It's like, yeah. Well, you were just talking about how much you hate the hobbits, and now you're saying you love them. Just that dissembling is so. But Sam, I mean, Sam says, and this sentence is really interesting. What's to be done with it? Said Sam. Tie it up, so as it can't come sneaking after us no more, I say. He just can't see Gollum as a person.
And Frodo responds, no, if we kill him, we must kill him outright.
Yeah,
but we can't do that.
Can't just leave him here to starve. Like, that's kind of too horrible to imagine.
And if nothing else, he's going to draw orcs with his screams.
Right, yeah.
But he's like, if we execute him, we have to do it cleanly. But we can't because he's a wretch. And he says he has done no harm to us. And one thing that we skipped over is that when Sam was kind of grappling with him, Gollum bites him hard on the shoulder.
Yeah, bites his shoulder.
And so he's like, he hasn't done any harm to us. Which, like, come on, Frodo.
Yeah, it's a little naive. I mean, yeah.
Sam's like, oh, he hasn't done us any harm, has he? And he kind of like dramatically like grabs at his shoulder. And he says, anyway, he meant to, and he means to, I'll warrant. And Frodo says, I dare say. But what he means to do is another matter. So he's like, we can't kill him because of what he wants to do. He makes this kind of noble choice to show him pity. And he hears a voice from the past. And this is the voice of Gandalf. Is this exchange all the way back in the Shadow of the Past?
I think so.
Chapter?
Yeah.
Do you want to read that?
What a pity Bilbo did not stab the vile creature when he had the chance. Pity, it was pity that stayed his hand, pity and mercy, not to strike without need. I do not feel any pity for Gollum. He deserves death. Deserves death? I dare say he does. Many that live deserve death, and some die that deserve life. Can you give that to them? Then be not too eager to deal out death in the name of justice, fearing for your own safety. Even the wise cannot see all ends. And then Frodo kind of replies to that exchange in a way and says, very well. He answered out loud, lowering his sword. But still I am afraid. And yet, as you see, I will not touch the creature. For now that I see him, I do pity him.
And Gollum plays into that. He's like, yeah, like, I am wretched. I am like I'm full of misery. And he goes, nice hobbits won't kill us. Nice hobbits.
It's interesting, though, that Frodo's mercy doesn't stop him from saying, you're full of wickedness and mischief, Gollum.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just like a blanket pass on your behavior. It's almost as if Gollum is like too far below Frodo's station for Frodo to deal with him in a way that he might somebody that's like more equal to him or something like that. In the same way that Sauron, they can't cast judgment on Saruman because Saruman's judgment is going to come from God, right?
Yeah. There's almost like a recognition that they would be within their right to murder him, but they're choosing a higher road.
Yeah, they're choosing not to. Even though they do judge him. They do judge him as wicked and mischievous and dangerous.
So he's like, we're not going to kill you, but we won't let you go either. Says you will have to come with us and we'll keep an eye on you, but you must help us if you can. One good turn deserves another. And this is the shift, I think, that Sam recognizes. Where are they going in these cold, hard lands, we wonders? Yes, we wonders. And Frodo answers, you know that, or you guess well enough, Sméagol. We are going to Mordor, of course. And you know the way there, I believe. Says that Sam scowled at him and sucked his teeth, but he seemed to sense that there was something odd about his master's mood, and that the matter was beyond argument. All the same, he was amazed at Frodo's reply. Frodo looked straight into Gollum's eyes, which flinched and twisted away. "You know that, or you guess well enough, Sméagol," he said. So Sam sees Frodo transform in this moment.
He kind of can't believe it. Sam is sort of
Indignant.
He's indignant. It says he's amazed at Frodo's reply. Then they start to understand that Gollum knows his way around here.
Mm-hmm.
And knows about Mordor.
Yes.
That he was taken there, and now he knows how to get around without being spotted by orcs. Gollum's whole existence is kind of trying not to be spotted by orcs, trying not to be spotted by men, trying not to be spotted by elves.
Yeah, he wants to be solitary. He wants to be alone.
Of all the people in the world for them to come across to have as a guide.
Yeah.
It's kind of the guy they need.
Yeah. Well, he's shocked that they want to go there. He's like, why would you want to go to such a terrible place, essentially? It's pits and ashes and dust and thirst. And there's thousands of orcs. Thousands of orcses, he says. He says, nice hobbits mustn't go there to those places. And Frodo says, so you have been there. And you're being drawn back there, aren't you? And here's where we get the implication. We get the confirmation that he has been tortured by the Dark Lord himself.
Mm-hmm.
He says, leave me alone, Gollum. You hurt me. Oh, my poor hands, Gollum. I don't want to come back. I can't find it. And it says he got up and clenched his long hand into a bony, fleshless knot, shaking it towards the east. We won't. Not for you. So the implication, I think, is that his hands were tortured by the Dark Lord, and he's been instructed by him to find the ring and bring it back. And so his following the company and like coming back towards the east is really him being compelled by this command, even though he's resisting it, by Sauron himself. And Frodo, with I think a surprising amount of gentleness, he says, he will not go away or go to sleep at your command, Sméagol. But if you really wish to be free of him again, then you must help me. And that, I fear, means finding us a path towards him. But you need not go all the way, not beyond the gates of his land.
Hmm.
And Gollum says pitifully, don't ask Sméagol, poor Sméagol. He went away long ago. They took his precious and he's lost now. Is this the first time that he refers to himself as Sméagol?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't think we don't get Gollum talking before this, do we?
Not in this way.
Not like this. And so, yeah, I think that's the first time.
In the Council of Elrond, we sort of learn about Sméagol's backstory.
Yeah, we know his name, but
Gollum is what people call him, but Gandalf reveals that he used to be called Sméagol. And if I remember correctly, when Legolas is sort of recounting his escape, he refers to him as the creature Sméagol.
Mm-hmm.
So he sort of uses his proper name.
Yeah, right.
And I think it shows something about the characters in the story if they choose to call him Sméagol or Gollum. So it's a little bit less straightforward than I think I remembered, but Frodo tells him that he's going to be their guide. And Gollum agrees. He doesn't quite swear as he's about to in a minute.
Yeah.
But Sam and Frodo are tired and they're like, we need to sleep before we go. And they kind of make this like kind of winking agreement with one another without saying it, that they're not actually going to fall asleep. They're going to see what he does. And it says, suddenly, with startling agility and speed, straight off the ground with a jump like a grasshopper or a frog, Gollum bounded forward into the darkness. But that was just what Frodo and Sam had expected. Sam was on him before he had gone 2 paces after his spring. Frodo, coming behind, grasped his leg and threw him. Your rope might prove useful, Sam, he said.
Sam ties a knot around his ankle.
Yes.
And it begins to essentially burn him.
Yes.
Or at least that's how Sméagol feels. He screams, a thin, tearing sound, very horrible to hear. He writhes. He tried to get his mouth to his ankle and bite the rope, and he kept on screaming. And then Frodo is convinced. He's like, well, I guess he really is in pain. It's not just an act. And he goes and examines the knot. And I think this is so interesting. Sam was gentler than his words. So it's not like Sam tied the tightest knot he could around Sméagol, you know?
No, he's not screaming because Sam is like torturing him with this rope.
Yeah.
It's just the goodness of the rope burns him the same way that the light of the moon burns his eyes.
Sam was gentler than his words.
Even though he told him, I should be tying this around your throat.
Yeah, even though Sam sort of seems to have this real hatred for Gollum, he still has like a humanity. He's humane, I suppose, is the way to put it. I love how Gollum says, it hurts us, it freezes, it bites.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting way, because I went right for, it seems like it's burning him, but
it's like a freezing burn.
Yeah, something is worse about like a frostbite than an actual burn in some way.
But Frodo says, what's the matter with you? If you will try to run away, you must be tied. But we do not wish to hurt you. So Frodo says, we can't take this rope off of you, even though it's clearly torturing you, unless there is any promise you can make that I can trust. So there's the word promise. And Gollum says, we will swear to do what he wants. Yes, yes. Swear, said Frodo. Sméagol, said Gollum. Sméagol will swear on the precious. And this is when it says, and Frodo drew himself up. So there's kind of a similar like language to like how Galadriel, Aragorn, Gandalf are described as appearing taller.
Mm-hmm.
It says he drew himself up. And again, Sam was startled at the words in a stern voice. On the precious, how dare you? Think! And then he quotes the ring poem. One ring to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. He says, would you commit your promise to that, Sméagol? It will hold you. But it is more treacherous than you are. It may twist your words. Beware.
Yeah.
He's like, if you make this promise, you will be bound by it.
Yeah, fascinating. Even by this evil thing.
And so that's exactly what happens. He is bound by this promise, and it is his doom.
Yep.
He is going to betray Frodo, and this is what will eventually lead to his death. And so Frodo asks, what will you promise? And Gollum says, to be very, very good. What a childish response, to be very, very good. And he crawls and he grovels at Frodo's feet. He says, Sméagol will swear never, never to let him have it. Never. Sméagol will save it. But he must swear on the precious. And that's where Frodo gets into this like difference between swearing on something versus by it.
Mm-hmm.
Frodo says, no, not on it. All you wish is to see it and touch it if you can, though you know it would drive you mad. Not on it. Swear by it if you will, for you know where it is. You know Sméagol. It is before you.
It is before you is so interesting. Like Frodo almost casts himself as having the power of the ring there. Like he is the ring. Like he's manifesting the power towards Sméagol by saying, it is before you. I am before you.
And this is exactly what Frodo asked Galadriel all the way back in the Mirror of Galadriel chapter. He goes, why can't I bend other people to my will?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, you haven't tried. Here he tries.
Yeah.
This is a change in Frodo. And I think it's got to be partly because as he is, as the burden is growing, it's growing over him as well. And we never hear Frodo's quote unquote ring-induced monologue. We hear Boromir begin to say that he would become a commander of men. He'd have the power of command. We hear Gollum next chapter say, like, I'd become Gollum the Great. I would, get fish 3 times a day from the sea. I'll be good as fish. And we hear Sam have a vision of becoming a master gardener who is also a warrior who can call men to his command.
Mm-hmm.
We never hear what Frodo says, but I think this is like a little window into Frodo is having those same types of thoughts, I think.
And he appeals to the power of the ring itself, one ring to rule them all, and the darkness bind them. For Frodo to say that
Yes.
as he's trying to command Gollum is giving himself over to the power that the ring promises, which is the power of command, the power of domination, the power of binding.
Yes.
And it's something that he does or seems to do to Sméagol. I mean, Sméagol is dissembling here, but fascinating to me that Sméagol will save it.
Yes.
And sort of Sméagol is sort of held to his oath, even though he betrays the oath. He still, in the end, fulfills what he says he will do, which is to save it from him, from Sauron. Even though it's still like he's still like grasping toward the ring, trying to get it from Frodo, right? Bites off Frodo's finger. But it's like after Frodo has decided, or has failed in some way, has decided to keep the ring. Yes. That's when Gollum fulfills his oath.
Yeah.
Right? Like it all is like
he can't get out of it.
It's bound together in this knot.
Yes.
Speaking of knots, like in this knot that can't be undone.
Yes. And that's Gollum's doom.
Yeah, and it ends up being the salvation of the world.
What does Tolkien say again about in his letter?
Evil labors with vast power and perpetual success in vain, preparing always only the soil for unexpected good to sprout in.
So that's exactly what Gollum is doing. He's sowing evil, but unexpected good will sprout from that soil. So Gollum swears by the precious, and Frodo warns that it may twist his words. Says, it may twist your words, beware. It is treacherous. And in a couple of chapters, when they're at the Black Gate, Frodo says that if he betrays them, he will command him to cast himself into the fire. And Gollum's broken oath leads to the death that Frodo promises him.
Yeah, right.
In about 20 pages from now, at 640 in my edition, it says, Frodo says, the desire of it may betray you to a bitter end. And a phrase that comes up, I count 3 times, page 624, 633, 724, Frodo says, the precious holds the promise. And so this oath is an extremely pivotal moment in history. It sets the stage for everything that's going to happen after. Sam looks on at Frodo, and it says, for a moment it appeared to Sam that his master had grown and Gollum had shrunk. A tall, stern shadow. A mighty lord who hid his brightness in gray cloud. Wow, so there's like a very Gandalfian quote. And at his feet, a little whining dog. Yet the two were in some way akin and not alien. They could reach one another's minds. Gollum raised himself and began pawing at Frodo, fawning at his knees. So he's begging. And Frodo says, down, down, just like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Now speak your promise. We promises. Yes, I promise. I will serve the master of the precious. Good master, good Sméagol. Gollum, Gollum. Suddenly he began to weep and bite at his ankle again.
So who promises, right, to serve the master of the precious? I guess Sméagol.
Like Sméagol.
But Gollum, he's making a different promise, right?
Yes, and that'll come up next chapter.
He's making a promise to protect the ring. Yes. From Sauron, which is what he wanted to. Which is what he wanted to make an oath on in the first place.
And he says that earlier. He says, Sméagol will swear never to let him have it. Never. Sméagol will save it. And so he's able, that's just vague enough that he's able to convince himself of a lie later that he didn't promise this thing that he did
Yeah.
to serve Frodo.
Right.
And Frodo says, "Take off the rope, Sam." And Sam does. It says that once Gollum got up and began prancing about like a whipped cur whose master has patted it. So cur is, it comes from the Norse word cur, Kurr, which means grumbling, like a grumbling person, but it also means like a mangled dog in poor condition.
Interesting.
So he capers about, he prances about, and he spoke with less hissing and whining, and he spoke to his companions direct, not to his precious self. And so something about him does change, and he seems to genuinely want to please Frodo. If Frodo speaks kindly to him, he dances, but if Frodo rebukes him, he weeps.
A little more of Sam's, or maybe the difference between Frodo and Sam here again is Sam really won't talk to him at all. He doesn't really recognize him as a person.
Yeah.
He suspects him more deeply than ever. And it says, if possible, like the new Gollum, the Sméagol, less than the old.
Yeah.
Then he says, well, Gollum, or whatever it is we're to call you, he said, now off for it.
Yeah.
So Sam can't accept any kind of change in Sméagol, in Gollum, as a genuine. He's not wrong.
No.
But he is wrong. And maybe Sam's, like, I think we're supposed to get the impression that Frodo's positive regard for Gollum is edifying. Like, it builds something up in Gollum toward his like being as Sméagol.
Yes.
And you kind of wonder, like, if Sam had been right on board,
yeah,
like, could that have been like doubly or even like exponentially more edifying for Sméagol's kind of spirit?
Yes.
Maybe not. Maybe, he's 500 years too far gone to kind of like actually accept any kind of healing, that at least within the time frame that we're in here. But Sam just can't. He just isn't there. He's not able to show that kind of positive regard toward Gollum.
But Sam follows behind, tells him not to get too far ahead because he's at his tail and he's got his rope handy. And Gollum leads them towards the fens below. A fen is another word for a swamp. So they're going to what we'll now know in the next chapter as the Dead Marshes, which is the titular name. And it says, they faded swiftly and softly into the darkness. Over all the leagues of waste before the gates of Mordor, there was a black silence.
Well, thank you for reading along with us. Join us next week for Book 4, Chapter 2 of The Two Towers, The Passage of the Marshes. If you want to help us out, share the podcast with a Lord of the Rings fan in your life. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review, and subscribe on YouTube. And of course, visit waywardwizards.com for more info. If you want to get in touch with us, you can get us at info@waywardwizards, or either of our names, Zach or Logan, at waywardwizards.com. And of course, comments on Spotify and YouTube are on, and so we're happy to receive those comments as well.
But until next time, remember, those as can't fly can jump. We'll see you next week.
See ya.